Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bad for Baseball, the baddest baseball podcast on the internet, presented to you by Betway. I am your co-host, Adam Peddle, joined alongside by the other co-host, Nicholas Paleolog. The Dodgers, they're dodgering right now. They recently went out and they got their guy. Blake Snell is an LA Dodger, and guess what? There's some effery business going on with that contract that is going to make every other MLB fan base absolutely facepalm. And as well, we've got a ton of other MLB free agent rumors that are circling around the league. Now that Blake Snell is off the board, where does that bring the Yankees, Orioles, Jays, Red Sox? Where are they looking? Where are they setting their sights this offseason? Who are they going to try and get? We're going to talk about all that and a lot more. But before we do, Nick, it's American Thanksgiving, and your Green Bay Packers, which we're going to talk to you about later in this video, are playing today. So you must be feeling good.
Dude, I always, I love the tradition of American Thanksgiving so much with the football and everything like that. Yeah. Like, we are Canadian-based, so our Thanksgiving happens, a month earlier. But, I mean, there is nothing better than watching, football all day on American Thanksgiving. Even though, again, I'm not American, I'm not eating turkey, I'm not having ham, I'm not doing anything like that. It feels like I'm partaking in the tradition a little bit.
It's football, actually, I've got, we all love football. I've got some wine I'm going to have maybe
there
at some
you go.
point today. Obviously, this is our job. We got this, we got our other platform, but who am I going to ask? Am I going to ask my boss if we're going to have wine? No, I'm going to ask myself.
No, exactly, right. You can have, you can ask me, and I'll tell you can have a little bit. It's all good.
If you wanted to ask me, hey, can I go pick up some beer?
Well, I'm going to anyways, regardless of what you say. But no, seriously, happy Thanksgiving to all of our American listeners out there. If you are American, man, again, it feels like this is the transition a little bit from I know that, technically it's we've been in fall and everything like that, but this is almost all right, we're starting to enter winter for me now. Once this weekend happens, once Black Friday hits, all that stuff. So, we are now in the thick of the MLB offseason, and I want to circle back to something you said right off the top of this podcast, which was the Dodgers went out and they got their guy. Now, yes, that is true, but by saying that they went out and got their guy, that almost implies a little bit as if, well, that's the only guy that they're going to get. And being the LA Dodgers, this is what's so fucked. They went out and they got their guy before everyone else got their guy, other than the LA Angels. I don't even know if they're going to be done, which is insane.
No, because they still haven't gotten their other guy, Teoscar Hernandez.
That's the thing. There's other guys to get.
Granted, I don't know. I think Blake Snell, assuming that the Dodgers don't go out and get Soto, I think this will probably be the highest paid guy overall, the overall contract, $182 million.
Yeah, I mean, I could also, again, and we'll talk about the contract. It is a lot. I'm kind of surprised he got that much money. Granted, he is very, very good when he's on, but we talked about in the last podcast, when he's off, he is off. I mean, I could still see the Dodgers. I personally don't think that they're going to be getting Juan Soto at this point.
I don't think so.
They're not,
especially after this too.
That's the thing. They're not officially out. I've actually heard some other MLB analysts talk about it, and it's even after this contract, they're not out. They're still in. Just goes to show how crazy they are. But probably seems unlikely that they're going to be able to compete with the Mets, with the Yankees, with the Blue Jays, with the Red Sox. But I could still see them going out and getting a Willy Adames. Now, I don't know if his contract would be more or less than Blake Snell. Probably around the same. So I could still see them going out and doing that. I don't think that they would get an Alex Bregman. I don't
doesn't feel right.
No, and I mean just Bregman.
And also Houston.
Exactly, right. It doesn't feel like that would work out there. So honestly, you're right. Probably at least the highest or tied for the highest of what they could be capable of doing. Because after Willy Adames, I don't know if there is another big-time free agent that they would go out and acquire. Now that they got their pitcher, too, it feels like that's going to be their big rotational guy.
They won't get Alonso. They have Freeman.
No, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of... Santander they could get, but he's not going to be
he's not going to be the same as Blake Snell, who did just get paid, everybody, $182 million. That is a lot of money, right? That is a lot of money for a guy who, like we said, have kind of been up and down. When he is up, he is fucking up. He is effectively unhittable when he's up. When he's down, it's free passes, it's home runs, it's whatever. But the Dodgers being the Dodgers, having the rotation that they have, they are willing to take that risk. They're willing to fire that bullet, and an expensive bullet it was.
Right. Oh, absolutely, right? Like you mentioned, $182 million, but... they're doing the Dodger thing where they're deferring some of that money. Now, the contract details aren't official, but this is through the grapevine. they're thinking they're gonna defer about $60-ish million, so that would bring his AAV down to like what would it be like?
So I have it right here on Spot Rack. Again, I don't know if this is official, but they have his average annual value for next year anyways being $13 million, whereas he should be getting paid, significantly more than that.
God, so yeah, because if it was roughly 60 deferred, 125. Yeah, you're looking. Well, maybe it's structured differently. We don't know.
We don't know.
With the details hasn't come out, but regardless, they're deferring $60 million to help hopefully fill up that team. Now, I made this in a short. Isn't it kind of wild that this is now their 7th player over $100 million they have on their roster, and they could add an 8th, And I saw an MLB fan comment on that post I made, and it was in all capitals, being like screaming, "MLB needs to step in and stop this." Do you think there should be any stopping, or is this? If I'm a Dodger fan, obviously I'm loving it. This is my team. I'd be so happy. But, so with that being said, I think it's fair, right?
Listen, I don't want to feel like this is attacking Dodgers fans at all, right? Because there's. It can be both. It can be that the MLB needs to stop this, and it can also be that the LA Dodgers have exploited the system so well, and that they've played within the rules, right? So it is both. Yeah. It's not like you guys have cheated in any capacity. You're doing what every other team has the capabilities of doing. And when people say, well, these teams can't outbid the Dodgers or anything like that, Steve Cohen's got a lot more money than you. Edward Rogers, the Toronto Blue Jays owner,
second most
got a lot more money than the LA Dodgers. There are squads out there that could be capable of competing with you, and just in terms of a bidding war, a monetary value. So, yeah, this isn't a slam to the LA Dodgers or their fan base or anything like that, because they are playing fair. All that being said, though, is it crazy that they got 7 guys over $100 million? Sure, it is. It is kind of wild.
3 over $300 million.
And you know what? For me, I guess because they're so far away, in a completely different division than the division that I frequently watch and everything like that, it's easy for me to go, oh, this is great for baseball because people are going to tune in, and if you're a casual fan, well, maybe you'll hop on the bandwagon of the LA Dodgers, which is very fair and honestly would be a pretty good bandwagon to hop on. But goddamn, man, if I was a San Diego Padres fan, or if I was a San Francisco Giants fan, or just if I was a Colorado Rockies fan,
I mean they're down so bad.
They're down horrendously in other capacities. But if I was a fan of a team in that division other than the LA Dodgers, oh my God, I would be pissed.
I'd be just looking at the wild card from here on out, right? I mean, again, we brought this up before, but it's no longer, if I'm a Dodger fan, I'm no longer watching the regular season. Obviously, I'm watching, but I'm really focused. I'm spending a lot of my energy focusing on October.
It's what are we? What type of how healthy are we? What's the momentum looking like? That's
honest. Good?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is Ohtani getting another 50-50?
Probably.
How dominant is our rotation going to be this year? Because it's going to be grossly dominant.
Assuming that everybody is healthy, it is going to be a stupid rotation, guys. Yeah. I mean, they got kind of the 1 through 5 here. This is projected, but Yoshinobu Yamamoto up there at number 1. You got Shohei Ohtani number 2. You got Blake Snell at 3. You got Glass now at 4, and then you got Tony Gonsolin at 5. That's stupid and dumb.
That's stupid. They could even go out if they really wanted to and get a 5th guy if they really wanted to. Some capacity.
Of course they could.
Go get Jack Flaherty back. He's a guy from L.A. Why not?
Yeah,
why
not? Off the top, assuming everybody's healthy, assuming everyone's good to go, that rotation right there is arguably the best in baseball. I think
it is. I really can't think of a better one.
No. I mean,
Yankees are
maybe the
there.
Phillies are there.
Maybe the
Phillies are very solid, but again, this is a rotation that is certainly good enough to go to the World Series. And then when you pair that up with the bullpen that's already been incredible, the coaching that's incredible, and then obviously the lineup that is just goes without saying will give you runs. Yeah, you're looking at a potentially a 110, 120 win team. This is one of those teams that could go down as top 10 overall records of all time. We saw the Chicago White Sox lose the most games last year. This is a team that has the capabilities to win the most games next year.
Actually, you did bring up the bullpen, and I just realized. Remember, they're losing Trinan this offseason, too.
Oh, no. How will they survive?
How will they survive?
They won't be able to do anything
with
there.
Michael Kopech, Gratterall, Bonda, Brazier, like those are some solid guys. Like no, like they're gonna go and they're gonna get
That's
their
the thing, right?
bullpen
Like,
as well.
They're going to address that,
Mm-hmm.
and then anything that isn't addressed this free agency this offseason, that's going to be a trade deadline thing, right? And you know that they're in the I guess the mindset, the mentality to just fire any bullet necessary to give them the best possible chance to win the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
This is a squad that certainly has the potential and will be favorited to go back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to do everything in their power to make that happen.
Yeah, they will. So that's the latest right there. Blake Snell signing over to the Dodgers. I mean, I'm happy that there's been a big move because we were kind of sitting idle for a while waiting for something to happen. But now that that's happened, it's having a little bit of a domino effect, because now, you have the Yankees, you've got the Red Sox, and you got the Orioles, which we've been saying for a while that they needed to be looking at starting pitching, and they are. And they were all looking at Blake Snell. And as we know, Blake Snell is a Dodger. So now the market is starting to pivot, and the market is starting to develop for other guys like a Max Fried, who's also a very good quality left-handed starting pitcher.
Yeah.
You've got a report here from Mark Feinsand that the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Orioles were all in on Snell, and now they're kind of looking over towards maybe a Max Fried potential showdown. And also, don't forget about the Toronto Blue Jays. They don't include them here, but the Toronto Blue Jays were also heavily looking at Max Fried. So you got 4 AL East teams gunning for Max Fried. Do you think Max Fried could potentially get something similar to a Blake Snell?
Well, I was just going to ask, does Max Fried get more or less than Blake Snell? Because you look at Max Fried, you look at what he's done in his career. We're talking about a guy here that has a 3.07 ERA in his career.
So good.
Over, what is that, 8 years spent in Atlanta? He's 30 years old right now. He will be 31 next year. But this past season, a 3.25 ERA, and where there's been injury concerns with Max Fried, last year you got him being fully healthy. He pitched 174.1 innings. Now you look over at Blake Snell, ERA very, very similar from this past year, but the guy pitched, almost half as many innings as Max Fried. Now his highs, like we said, are extremely high. This is a Cy Young winner, but he's also had a lot more lows than Max Fried has in his career. And when you look at that career ERA, it's actually very similar. Max Fried with slightly better numbers and slightly more WAR than Blake Snell, and Blake Snell a year older than Max Fried as well. So honestly, pairing all of this stuff together, I think Max Fried's going to get more.
I think
than
so
Blake
too.
Snell.
Me personally, Blake Snell is like you said, when he's on, he honestly could be one of the best left-handers in all of baseball when he's absolutely on. He's got the highest strikeout per 9 of all time.
Yes, yeah.
All time. So you look at that and you're like, wow, sexy, pay him a lot of money. But me personally, I like consistency in my bullpen, or in my starting rotation, excuse me. And I mean, maybe I'm biased because Toronto Blue Jays have a lot of consistent guys in their rotation. If I'm going to pay anybody $180 million, I want it to be someone like Max Fried who can go out there and I know exactly what I'm going to get, and who's someone who's not going to make me sweat like a Blake Snell does with the walk rate, right?
Well, I don't think there's anything to do with bias in there. Like the numbers are just better. That's the thing.
The numbers, are
just
better. They're
you know?
very eerily similar, like you were kind of talking about, but. Yeah, I mean, you're I don't know what you're paying for strikeouts. For me, it doesn't matter. Get me outs.
Well,
I don't care
here's
how
the
you
thing.
get me outs. Get me outs.
In the last 5 years, of Max Fried, the worst ERA that he's ever had was this past year.
Right.
So I mean, and look, if the floor is a 3.25 ERA with a WHIP of 1.164, sign me the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. And he is a year younger than Blake Snell. So the contract that Blake Snell got was a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
Tack on another year.
Yeah.
Tack on another year for Max Fried. It's I could see them getting pretty similar average annual values, but just add on another year, and now you're looking at 210, 220, right? It's that's, and I do think that's what this guy is worth.
I think so. You know what? I never thought Max Fried to be a $200 million guy, but based on that Blake Snell contract, what's to say I'm not?
Exactly right. That Blake Snell contract, has now really opened the door for Corbin Burnes, for Max Fried, for guys of that caliber. Now, I don't think that Jack Flaherty is necessarily in that conversation, but any pitcher that is quality right now, they are loving life. Because I do think that, honestly, all things considered, it was a bit of an overpay for Blake Snell. It
Yeah,
was,
a little bit, yeah.
Again, you're talking about a guy that's the second highest average annual value pitcher now,
Yeah.
I think, in all of baseball.
Yeah.
So that is a bit of an overpay for a Blake Snell. But these guys, for Max Fried, for Corbin Burnes, for those dudes, they are loving it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is what happens when you're the Dodgers and you're like, okay, we'll overpay and we'll just defer all the overpayments till later. Because we know we're gonna make a crap load of money because we're gonna win World Series.
I actually I was reading this today as well. Just in total, right? Because we know they got $680 from Ohtani deferred and everything like that, and whatever, they got a bunch more deferrals. In total, they have like just shy of $1 billion that's deferred over time. And there's so much stuff that you don't even like little deals that you don't hear about. Like like Teoscar Hernandez, for instance, his 1-year deal, he's still gonna get paid out from that in 2030.
Oh
like,
my God,
you know what I mean? Like,
really?
yeah, like there's stuff with like Freddie Freeman in there as well, and Mookie, like just like little like things that like cuts their dollar amount down like for right now, and then it's like carried over.
This is genius. I mean, because
it's the way.
If you're thinking about, because I'm like wondering how the hell they got all these $100 million guys on their payroll.
They don't pay them.
They don't pay them.
Yeah, exactly.
But what they're doing is they're building a super team, getting all of Japan excited, getting the whole world excited, getting their fan base excited. And then they can. It's almost like an investment strat. We're going to spend a lot of money, pay it later, but once we earn that money back and then some, we'll profit and we'll just pay it off and we'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean it is risky in the sense that you gotta win and you gotta be good.
Win.
You gotta have highlight level plays that excite a fan base, and effectively what they're doing is they're creating a squad that will generate new fans. They want to get new fans involved. Now, part of that is getting Japan involved, but I also think too, like, if you live in America or just anywhere, honestly, anywhere in the world, and you want to get into baseball, well, the easiest way to do that is to be a fan of the LA Dodgers, because not only are they very, very good, they have players that you can fall in love with, and they also have a lot of media coverage, right? So that's a team that you can, if you're living in Britain or something like that, you want to get into baseball. Well, I mean, for me, it's like, why not follow the LA Dodgers? Similarly to Japan and Korea and all those other places. So yeah, it is an investment strategy in the sense of, well, we're going to spend a shitload of money right now, and if we win and if we generate more fans, that's going to be a win for us a long term, because when we do need to fit the bill, it's okay because we made a ton of money and now we've grown as an organization.
It's genius, honestly, making me want to become a fan of the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, seriously,
like, for real. Like,
no,
they're doing it right. They're doing it right.
Yeah, they are.
I think a lot of people should start modeling after the LA Dodgers. Like I'm looking at, like Rogers Communication Company and Steve Cohen, like, you guys, like, don't splash it all now and have it all here. Defer it. I think that's the way. If they're doing it, why not you? Right?
Yes, and it's, again, though, like, I don't want to make it sound like it's so easy, because
there's a lot of brain work involved.
It's a
you
lot
of bet on yourself.
And that's the thing too, right? Like, you do need to win. It is not going to work, because if they had spent all of this money and they deferred all this shit and they weren't winning, and they oh my God, like, it's like a New York Jets situation where it's like, why is this not happening? We're not clicking, we're not winning. Well, now you're fucked.
Yeah, now you
are
when
screwed.
You go into a 10-year rebuild.
Correct.
Right? And that's the risk you got to take, right? But, I think I'd be okay with that if we can give it a shot. That's the thing, is like, I would hate to be with an organization that's not giving it a shot, like the Pirates, the Rockies, the A's. Like, that would suck a lot worse than, at least my team was exciting for a bit. We gave it our all, and then now, like, we're accepting the punishment.
I hear you, man. I do hear you. But again, what they're doing right now is very, very, very smart. And of course, like we said, guys like a Max Fried, guys like a Corbin Burnes, they are laughing. Corbin Burnes especially is probably somebody that's going to get the most money out of that starting pitcher market. Like, I do think that Corbin Burnes is I don't want to say like too much of a step ahead of a Max Fried or a Blake Snell, but just so dominant, so good. Everything that you look for in a number one, and around the same age as well. Like, that's somebody that, now that Blake Snell got 182, why not 250?
Well, yeah, because like the difference between Corbin Burnes and those other guys. Well, Corbin Burnes actually does have a career ERA of 3.19, so the exact same as a Blake Snell. But the similarities with a Max Fried is he is consistent. But the better thing here, he's consistent and he's healthy. The last 4 years, he started 28 games, 33 games, 32 games, 32 games.
Yeah, that's extremely healthy.
He'll start you every game, and he's got a great WAR over that time, and he always finishes in the top 10 in Cy Young, winning Cy Young back in 2021. So that's why he's going to get paid the most, because you're on the field the most.
Yeah.
And if Max Fried's getting 200, 210. Fuck, is Corbin getting like 230, 240?
I think he's getting like 250.
Yeah, could get 250.
Yeah, I mean, and that does seem right to me. You think about back in the day when Garrett Cole got paid, and he got paid like, what, 330, 340, something like that?
And what was Garrett Cole's numbers?
Like, probably very similar. You know what I mean? Like, just like dominant, always healthy type thing, eating up innings, flamethrower, everything you look for in a number one. I don't know if Corbin Burnes is going to get quite that much money, but like mid 200s for me is very reasonable for a number one starter, you know, still in the prime, who has shown that he is healthy, who has shown that he can win Cy Young. Like, yeah, this is somebody that I unload the Brinks truck for.
Yeah, like when Garrett Cole was with Houston the 2 years before he signed with New York, started every single game, 32-33, played in the postseason, as we remember, and he had a 2.68 ERA. That's the difference between that dollar amount right there, but still very solid and would unload the Brinks.
Yeah, exactly, and I think you're going to see something similar for a Corbin Burnes. Now, you might even see it going over to the New York Yankees, because they're getting into a bit of a desperation mode right now. Juan Soto sweepstakes are heating up. New York Mets, it feels like they're kind of in the lead right now, and the Yankees are sensing that pressure, and they are upping their offer. Now, this is a report from, I believe it was John Heyman coming out of the New York Post, that, they are upgrading their initial offer because they are starting to feel that pressure. And like we've said time and time again on this show, on our other show, honestly, everybody's fucking talking about it. You lose Juan Soto, we don't know what you are anymore. We don't know who you are. We don't know how long your window is. I mean, the season prior, you won, 82 games without
Something
Juan
like
Soto?
that, yeah.
Could you fall all the way back down there? Maybe, right? I don't know who you are and what your identity is anymore, and how much time you have left. And they clearly feel the same way, because now they're upping that offer and trying their best to compete with Steve Cohen.
Yeah, and you definitely feel the desperation, because we talked about this on a previous podcast where Soto was looking for a deal that had opt-outs. And I was kind of thinking, like, well, if that's what's going to push you over the edge, then that's what you do. And apparently this increase in offer includes opt-outs after third or fourth year. So
yeah,
it honestly, like, as much as we talked about it, like, we don't want to do that because you want to have your guy committed to you. If that's what it takes to get Juan Soto to stay in New York or to come over to your team, then you do it.
Well,
if that's going to be the sweetener.
I think I really like it for New York specifically, because you look at them and you look at their window, and their window is right now surrounded by Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole. So they're still going to have those guys. Maybe I was being a little too harsh when I said who's their identity, right, without Juan Soto, because it's still going to be those two guys.
Right.
But those guys are getting older. At some point, Aaron Judge is not going to be hitting close to 60 home runs, and at some point, Garrett Cole is not going to be able to throw 200 innings anymore of quality. That's going to happen. They're in their mid-30s at this point. So if you were to get Juan Soto, and you do sign him to the 12-year, 13-year deal, whatever it is, crazy average annual value, all that, but then you include those opt-outs. Well, for the Yankees, I don't think it's that big of an issue if he was to leave after 3 or 4 years. Like, obviously it would suck, but that to me feels like your window of time to win a World Series.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you should be trying to cash in right now on one of the greatest home run hitters that we've ever seen in our generation, and one of the better starting pitchers that we've seen in our generation. Two surefire Hall of Famers. You want to cash in on that right now. You get 3 or 4 years of Juan Soto, that is going to help you do that. And then after that, if he walks, it's like, okay, now we're starting a new regime, we're starting a new window. Or if he stays, well,
you're part of it.
Now you're part of it.
Yeah, like, I really don't think there's many other teams that have a window of Juan Soto's contract other than maybe the LA Dodgers. That's like the only team that has a 10-year window right now. So, like, honestly, it makes sense for a lot of these teams, like New York, like the Blue Jays. I mean, the Blue Jays have a 2-year window, right? Boston Red Sox may have a little bit bigger with Rafael Devers, and they got a couple new guys coming up, young guys like Jarren Duran, but that's going to be about 4 to 5 years.
Well, the thing is, okay, so the thing that I like about this for the Yankees is that, for a lot of other teams, you bring in Juan Soto, and then you bring him in, and you're hoping that you have him for a decade or more, and you try to build around him. And then, if he walks after 3 years, now you're left with, without your superstar, and you're kind of
Right.
like left without this identity type thing.
Right.
Whereas like if he goes to the Yankees, not that, he's not the superstar, but he's still just a complementary piece to the pre-existing superstars,
Right.
And I think that makes it different for me in the sense of, well, we're not actually really building around you.
You're helping.
You are
Yeah.
building around what we already have here.
I guess you could say the same thing about Francisco Lindor, different level of player. Obviously Aaron Judge, Frankie Lindor are very different players, but two very good players in their own right. You could be like, okay, well, you're adding him into a Frankie Lindor, but that's one less than the two that you have over New York.
Yeah, of course. No, I do think, like, again, the New York Mets, for me, they're in a situation where I think, like, they would definitely want to have him. They would want to bring him and have him be their guy, right?
Sure.
Whereas the Yankees already kind of technically have their guys type thing. Not to say that the Mets don't have elite players, but
They don't
I
have
think
a rotation right now.
that's like, another thing.
We haven't actually. Well, I've heard little nuggets here and there, but I've been mostly hearing, maybe because it's just so drowned out with Soto crap, but like mostly hearing they're all in on Juan Soto. But they really got to go figure out that rotation. If you go get Soto, but you grab middling pitchers, like I don't really know how good you're going to be next year. Lineup will be pretty fun and exciting.
Yeah,
but,
well, granted, to their credit, though, I mean, like, they made it work last year with like Manaea,
Sean Manaea.
like various other kind of like mix and match.
Can't even remember
That's the thing, right? Like,
rotation,
they made it work with guys that you don't expect to be that good.
Yeah.
Severino, I believe, is part of it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about names that are meh. So,
I mean, that's
like,
why they had such a wild season, too.
Exactly. Now, I do agree with you. Getting a bit more stability in that rotation will be big for them. Will be crucial. I still think that they're going to do it regardless. I still think that Steve Cohen is going to be in on the conversations for like a Jack Flaherty, for a Max Fried, for a Corbin Burnes. He will be in on all of that. Getting Juan Soto, though, now really solidifies the identity of the New York Mets for me.
And right now, if you were to bet your life on it, still New York Mets?
Yeah, I mean, I
do
think so. Like, I do think so. I think that Steve Cohen, he's gonna pull out all the stops like he will. Now, I think that Boston's actually kind of sneaky. I mean, like, Boston has been talked about as going all in as well, and I don't want to rule them out. I think actually I like them more than the Blue Jays, and I like them kind of the same amount as I like the Yankees at this point. Like, I think that there's a lot of things going for them that I would like if I was Juan Soto, and I mean, like, there's just, for me, maybe I'm biased, but like I think there's something kind of historic about Fenway and about Boston, and again, this is a bias creeping in. I would prefer to be a Boston Red Sox than a New York Yankee.
Yeah.
That's just me. I don't know if Juan Soto feels any way about that, but that's just how I feel about it.
Right.
But either way, I do like where Boston's at right now. I think they're going to be in the mix till the very end.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I'm sure there's other reasons why, but that's a big reason why apparently the Yankees are up in, because they heard like the Red Sox are being very aggressive, and they're like, well,
Yes.
if we already knew the Mets were being aggressive, and they got the Red Sox, well, we're going to come into this.
And I would argue too. I mean, like this is fucking nightmare fuel for the New York Yankees, because like think about the top players right here. There's three other top players. One is your Subway Series rivals in the New York Mets.
Oh yeah,
you lose him, to the New York Mets. That is
sucks.
so goddamn embarrassing. The guy,
it's right across town.
he literally doesn't even have to move.
No.
Like he's not even going to move where he's living right now. So that's going to suck. The other two are your division rivals.
Yeah.
So then, it's like you literally take this 9-WAR player and just give 9 wins to the Boston Red Sox or the Toronto Blue Jays. This is nightmare fuel for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, well, and also, like, to add on to that, like, the fact that all those teams are going after, and the Orioles are all going after Max Fried and Corbin Burnes, that's a lot of swing in the AL East going in one way or another. Like this is why I love the offseason, because this offseason, whoever gets who could determine the rest of the season.
Yes,
because they're all divisional teams.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're talking about a player literally coming from, like, again, a 9-WAR guy going from you to you in the same division, right? Like, that's going to be the difference here. 9 wins is going to be the difference between us making it or not making it.
Yeah, or like Burns going over to, New York or whatever. It might be, Orioles, Yankees. Like, that's another swing there.
That's a massive swing. I mean, I heard actually very, very recently the Toronto Blue Jays, for instance, they are badly coveting Anthony Santander.
Right.
Now, not a similar, of Juan Soto caliber, but still, you're taking away 44 home runs from the Baltimore Orioles, and you're just putting it on your team. I mean, like, that is a major addition and a major loss for them. So it's almost like when you can sign a guy from your division rival, it's like the cherry on top of already signing him anyways, right?
It's like Snell from the Giants going over the Dodgers.
Yeah,
not like they needed any more.
Not
wins,
like they needed it, but it's like you just like straight up stole our guy. You stole our wins. You stole our innings, right? And you just took it for yourself.
Yeah, that's hilarious, man. But yeah, it'll be still interesting to see. Heyman describes right now this process of Soto negotiations as the middle innings. So if you think of it like a baseball game, right now we're in the middle innings of the Juan Soto sweepstakes. You kind of have an idea of how this game has been going to play out the rest of the way with the Blue Jays, Red Sox, Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets being the 5 teams. And Heyman also says that word emerged on Tuesday that Soto could possibly make his final decision during the winter meetings, which will be December 8th to December 12th.
Yeah,
so
that feels
will be
like
the ninth
time.
inning right there.
That feels like the time. The winter meetings have kind of been the loose deadline as to when he will make his decision, and then I also think at that period of time as well, you're going to see a lot of other guys start to fly off the board. We got our first domino with Blake Snell, and I think that has kind of opened the door a little bit here. Juan Soto is still the big barrier, though, between a lot of the position players going. And
Absolutely.
I think that you're going to see him go in the winter meetings, and then it's going to be a flurry of moves, during the winter meetings, and then, kind of the weeks following right up until Christmas time where, all the executives go on their Christmas breaks and everything like that. But that kind of like week before Christmas, that's going to be fucking major.
Huge, man. Also, another tidbit. Today's American Thanksgiving, as we see. Apparently, Boris said he said that there's contract offers due on American Thanksgiving. Wow. Boris putting other GMs to work on the holidays.
Put them to work. Yeah, dude. That would be... I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? Like, you get a phone, like, you get a notification about Juan Soto, like, sorry, fam, I gotta dip out here and like go handle this shit.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That does suck, obviously,
Yeah, but it's part of it, I guess. It is what it is. But as a fan, I'm excited. I want to be sitting on my couch watching football.
Getting the notification.
Oh, Blue Jays apparently have made the highest offer by Scott Boras.
That would feel very,
awesome.
Very good.
I'd be very thankful for that.
Well, before we get to the next topic of conversation, let's talk a little bit about that football and give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, Betway, guys. You wanna hop on it, hit your picks at Betway. We got some lines for y'all. I believe it is the Miami Dolphins and Green Bay Packers game this evening, Lambeau Field. Now, before we even discuss the lines right now, it's going to be -4 at 8 p.m. in Green Bay, Wisconsin. -4, Green Bay, Wisconsin. I don't think there's any snow or anything like that, but it's going to be chilly. Not crazy cold like it gets in, January when it's like -20 or something.
Yeah.
But cold enough that the Hawaiian boy, Tua Tagovailoa, might struggle a bit.
Yeah, apparently he's 0 for 7 in cold weather games. Dude, that for me is enough to know that, like, I'm going to go and ride with the Green Bay Packers. I actually really like this point spread of -3.5. Green Bay Packers, 1.95. Just win by 4.
Win by 4.
I think you should win by a good amount anyways, and that ups the odds a bit.
Now, I will say, and I'm a diehard Green Bay Packers fan, so obviously I, too, believe that we're going to win this game, and I want us to win this game. Miami Dolphins are no walkover. They cannot be underestimated.
No, they can't be, but I just believe in the stat that, like, look, you're away, you're in Lambeau. It's Lambeau Field, first of all. A lot of teams struggle with going to Lambeau Field. Like, I saw my Cardinals, who is a hot weather team, go to Lambeau Field and suck ass, and that was in, like, October. This is now almost December. It's a Thanksgiving time. I have the faith that the Dolphins, they'll be good, but not good enough to face the Green Bay Packers and defeat them.
Yeah, I will, too, take that line as well. I would also suggest to anybody who's interested in, some other stuff right now, Josh Jacobs rushing yards, that guy has been on fire recently.
He's been very good.
And now that it's getting chilly as well, like, it feels like he's going to get the touches. And honestly, 2 very high-powered offenses. Miami's been cooking with the points. Green Bay put up 38 last week. Wouldn't be surprised if we hit the over tonight as well.
That'd be huge. That'd be huge, guys. So scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to join the actions. Only available in Ontario. Must be 19 years or older, so please play responsibly. We were talking about the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays, actually, this came out right before we hit record, guys. But Blue Jays are interested in Alex Bregman. Now, we've heard this before.
Yeah.
You know, they lost their guy, Matt Chapman, and they've been looking for some replacement for that third base bag. They had Ernie Clement last year, and that was cool. You fan favorite, but nothing like an Alex Bregman. They're looking at him, and they're also looking at Luis Severino. That one also is interesting to me, Nick, the Luis Severino thing, because if you remember like a couple years ago, he literally got caught cheating against the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
And then like every Blue Jay fan and their dog turned on him and was like, this guy sucks. Interesting to see the Blue Jays are interested in Luis Severino.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Severino he's a guy. I think that it's
okay year last year.
Yeah, no, I like. There's been years in the past where Severino has looked like one of the better pitchers in baseball. Like the early years with the Yankees, like it looked like he was going to be their new ace. Yeah, and then he dealt with a lot of injuries. Dealt with a little, controversial shit, and then obviously kind of fell off the table and has been struggling to get back to it. Last year was a good step. I honestly like the dart throw there. I think that, for what's probably going to be a relatively cheap contract, you're getting a high upside play that isn't going to, completely bust your franchise if he flops. So I like that. Bregman, I've been flopping back and forth on this one, man, because I feel like I have a bit of a... I feel like I got a bit of a bias that this is going to look like a bad contract one day.
I understand why.
Yes, and I'm trying to, and now I'm wondering, am I just being too harsh on him? And have I just kind of picked him and decided this isn't going to be good? Because when you look at the numbers, the career numbers, they are nice. Am I being too negative on Alex Bregman and where this is going to go? Because we are talking about a Gold Glover. We are talking about somebody who in the span of their career has gotten MVP votes, has won a World Series before, has been really good in the postseason. I know the numbers, offensively speaking, weren't great, but also somebody who can work a walk almost better than anyone. Maybe I'm going too far in the other direction of this guy is going to bust.
Well, I think the reason why you're going there, and you don't need me to say it, but for those listening, is because you had another guy from Houston at the same age going into his free agency named George Springer.
No, I think that's probably why.
That's probably why. That's literally, that's where my brain always
fucking
goes.
Triggered, man.
And it's around the same amount of money, if not a little bit more, that you're going to have to pay Alex Bregman.
Probably, yeah.
And
on the hot corner after a Gold Glove year, probably. Yeah,
probably, right? And if you're looking at the differences, though, between an Alex Bregman and George Springer played a very taxing position of center field, and he played out of his ass. This guy runs like a 34-year-old shouldn't be running after all those injury histories. But Alex Bregman's a little bit different. Third base isn't that taxing of a position. And he's been very consistent
and healthy,
which
that's George Springer was not.
He was not healthy
even prior to coming to the Toronto Blue Jays. Right, he was injured in Houston a decent amount. Whereas Alex Bregman, the last 3 years, it's been pretty good health wise for quite a while right there. So, and also this is another thing to note, which I think is very, very important. George Springer's value came from the long bomb. It came from attacking you early with the leadoff home runs, right? It wasn't there some stat where it's he's up there in leadoff.
Second all time, I think, in the leadoff homers.
It's that's where the main value came from. It's this guy from the leadoff spot is going to give you a 500 slug. And as he's gotten older, we've seen that power kind of creep down.
Right.
Alex Bregman, his main value was always the fact that he could take pitches and work walks. That was, I mean, he's always up there in the walk category. Yeah, in 2019, actually, he led the league with 119 walks. He's
his
been
MVP 2 year.
Exactly, his MVP 2 year. But that's always been one of his things that he's got in his bag that he's been really solid at.
Which is somewhat of a eyebrow raise when you look at 2024 and consistently before. His on base to batting average is always about 100 points higher. Where last year was only about 55, right? He went from 87 walks in 2022, 92 in 2023, and then 44 in 2024.
Which kind of defeats exactly what I was trying to say right now. Right. Because my whole thing is that's a skill that you don't lose that much. But
but then that's what I'm saying. It's so uncharacteristic of him to just cut his walks in half. What happened?
See,
that's Baseball Reference.
That's the thing. Now. That's what we got to ask ourselves. It really comes down to, was Alex Bregman's year last year just an anomaly? Just an anomaly?
Or just the beginning of the end?
Or the beginning of the end. Because, if you go back to, getting 90 walks a year, we're talking about serious value. We're talking about a very good player who's going to have an 800 OPS if you go back to getting 90 walks a year.
Okay, so I'm looking at his Baseball Reference, and he's been very good and consistent in the last, other than 2024, in chase, whiff, K rate, walk rate, obviously. You have all those high skills, you'll be a great on-base guy, right? You're not chasing, you're not striking out, you're working the counts, you're getting more walks. So his chase rate was at 95 percentile in 2023. It dropped down, I believe, it did, to 82. But is that the greatest difference to make you that much worse?
That's the thing. We're talking about a 13% difference right there. I mean, yeah, that's going to factor in for sure, but to cut your walks in half like that seems kind of ridiculous.
It does.
I don't know, man. And this is the thing with Alex Bregman. There's obviously a lot to like here, and there's obviously some red flags.
Yeah.
And I just hope that whoever ends up signing, and whether it be the Toronto Blue Jays, that's reflected in the contract. But considering this is a guy that, wants $300 million, it might not be.
Yeah, the last report was he's going down more and down, and I think understandably so. He wants 200, and I just don't see that happening, because as soon as you're 200 million is you're playing at your ceiling right now. You're giving me Gold Glove defense. You're giving me that high walk percentage. You're giving me 25 home runs. You're giving me an OPS of low 800. Okay, now I could maybe justify 200 million.
Yeah, because keeping in mind as well, he is going to be 31 years old at the beginning of this next year, right? So, and yeah, I know, third baseman isn't as taxing as other positions or whatever, but still. Yeah. The decline is going to come within the next 3 to 4 years. Yeah. That's going to happen. That's just statistically speaking, that's going to happen, right?
And if he declines, you're going to lose maybe one of these things. You're going to lose the good defense. You're going to lose the on-base percentage. You're going to lose the power. Once you lose one of those things, that contract looks bad now.
Yeah.
It immediately looks bad, and now you're stuck with it for 5 more years.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? I'm happy to hear that the Toronto Blue Jays are seriously interested in Alex Bregman, because I do think, he would provide a really big boost to that lineup, and then obviously the defense too would just be great over at the third base bag. But do I want to see them or any team pay this guy $200 million? That's a lot, because how many years is that? 7? Right?
Yeah.
And then what's that average annual value? Still close
Very
to 30
high.
or something
Yeah,
like that. I don't know what that math is, but something like that. That's a lot of money for a lot of period of time to have this guy until he's 38, 39?
Yeah, that's a lot.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I brought this up on a video on Blue Jays today in one of our video rooms. But the only argument I had of why the Blue Jays would be okay with spending and committing that much money is the fact that they do have basically everyone but 2 guys leaving their books after 2026, and you're trying to get the best version of Alex Bregman now. For the next 2 years, the only way you can convince him to come here is if you give him a contract for 6 or 7 years. But you're okay with having another George Springer type deal after 2026, because George Springer will be off the books along with a lot of other players. So that's probably, if I were to play the other side, probably they're thinking that they're okay, well, maybe in the next 2 years we'll get this Alex Bregman, and then after that we'll just accept it.
Well, I want to keep talking about this Alex Bregman thing and just overpaying players as a whole, but before we do, a massive shout out here to Greta Bar, located downtown Toronto, everybody. It is the spot to go. I think they got a couple events coming up too, probably around Christmas time, so you definitely want to check it out. Just a bunch of retro games, bunch of great food there as well, and just all of the sports that you can ever possibly imagine. I would anticipate that they're going to have every single, Thursday night Thanksgiving football game on today, pretty much throughout. So if you're looking for a fun thing to do today or this weekend or just any time, then you definitely want to go check out Greta Bar. Continuing the conversation here about Alex Bregman getting overpaid, there's a whole article here from Bleacher Report talking about the most overpaid players projected to be this offseason. Alex Bregman is clearly on the list, and they're talking about how he's going to be looking to get a contract in the range of 11 years, $350 million that Manny Machado got.
Are you? No, that's crazy balls.
I know it's crazy balls, but look, from 2020 to 2022, which is when Manny Machado was, kind of the last 3 years prior to his extension that he got, he had a 291 batting average, an 881 OPS, but a 14.2 WAR. So very, very good. Bregman in 2022 to 2024, lower batting average, 260, lower OPS, 798, but the WAR was 14. So it's almost identical. This is why I fucking hate WAR, because it's dumb as nails. It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
I'd much rather have Manny Machado.
But, well, no, because the WAR says otherwise. But anyways, so we can all agree that Bregman is a bit less than Machado. Right. But if Scott Boras and Bregman come into the conversation saying, oh, well, he's only 0.2 WAR less, I don't think he's going to get 350 11 years here. But, yeah, that's when you start to look at the 250 or 2 whatever, and it's like, oh god, like I'm just not willing to do this if I'm a team.
Yeah, exactly, because like we're talking about, if he loses one of that aspects of his game, that 14 WAR drops immediately, and it could be right around the corner, and it's just the different. And like Manny Machado too, when he signed his initial deal, like he was way younger, way better, got the $300 million, and he was like, all right, great, like he had Gold Glove defense, great power, great on base, he had everything, man. He was a 5-tool stud, maybe not so much stolen bases, but Bregman is in the middle to the back half of his career now. Like, we can't be doing that kind of similar numbers to a Manny Machado. No. We can't be doing that, man. So, yeah, if he is wanting 250 and that's it, get the hell out of the room.
No, I would not be interested in that if I was the Blue Jays or honestly any team. Now, another guy on this list that I think there can certainly be made a conversation or an argument as to why he may or may not be overpaid is Anthony Santander. Right. Now, Santander coming off of a great year over there in Baltimore, 44 bombs, OPS plus, I believe it was 134. So the guy was phenomenal this year.
Right.
Drove in 102 runs across the board. Great. This is somebody that you want in your cleanup spot or the middle of your lineup. You're going to set it. You're going to forget it. You're going to love it. But this was definitely his best offensive year that he has ever had. Granted, it's been going up, right? So whenever we make arguments about players, how they, season by season, it's been going down. Well, for Anthony Santander, it's been on the upswing.
Right.
So now the question is, well, is it going to keep going up? Is it going to stay where it is? Or is he going to go down? And the argument that these guys are making in Bleacher Report anyways is that the production is going to tick down.
Yeah, because what is the core of Anthony Santander's production? It's the long ball.
44
homers, right? And if he doesn't hit 44 homers, it will go down, right? It's pretty hard to hit 44 homers back-to-back years where this is the first year he's done it in his 8-year career. Like, granted, prior years, 28 homers, 33 homers, but that's kind of what you should be expecting. Like, you should be expecting, give me around 30 homers with the upside of maybe you'll hit 40 one year, but he's going to try and get paid like a 40-homer guy.
Yes.
And that's where the overpay could come in. So I absolutely hear what they're saying. That's why I think a lot of these projections have him like a lot lower and lower year where there's a lot less risk, where, you pay him a little bit more, but it's a less of a longer-term deal, so that if he does suck, it's like, well, then we'll get rid of you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Now, I do still think that Santander is somebody that you are going to be happy that your team pays for in the long term, because his contract's not going to look like Bregman.
No,
he's not going to be asking for a $300 million deal or anything like that. Like, Bleacher Report's actually projecting him to get a 5-year, $101 million deal. I don't know why we added that one there. Maybe he's just trying to get a little bit more than somebody else. 20.2. Let's just say 5 years, $100 million contract.
That's
paid
pretty good.
$20 million a year. I don't really see him getting any less than that because we're coming off of a 44 home run year, and ultimately it's like that's the going rate of a good player. If he does hit the, I don't know, floor of his outcomes, and you're looking at like a mid 700 OPS and, like you said, 28 bombs. That's still not horrendous for a $20 million player. It is a bit of an overpay, but not horrendous, all things considered.
No, you still pay for that guy. I mean, and I have seen other, like, this is Bleacher Report's projection. I've seen other guys do like 3 years, $70 million. So, you're paying a little bit more AAV, like 23.3333. But
it's not going to sink you.
It won't sink you, and, if that contract ages badly, it's like, okay, well, you're gone before it gets really bad.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, again, like, I think that there is certainly some risk here. Whenever you're dealing with guys where, especially, they're coming off of like a career home run year, never done it before, you're going to be dealing with some risk because those numbers could certainly decline. There could be some strikeouts in their future. They could start pushing if they're not getting the home runs immediately off the top of the season, which is never a good thing. But I wouldn't say, I think that this is less risk, in my opinion, than a Bregman, and it probably just comes down to the fact that, he's going to get paid half the money that Bregman is,
Yeah. No, absolutely. Can't agree more. Now, they have a bunch of pitchers on here. I'm just going to loop them all together. They have Scherzer, Verlander, who are two old guys, and, I mean, the risk there is they could be old.
Well, they are old.
They could
Can they
really
still
show,
throw the baseball is the question.
Their age is really going to show, like Mike Tyson against Jake Paul. It's going to be really showing, and you're going to pay them a lot because they're Scherzer and Verlander, and you're going to pay for that, high pedigree. So, there's those guys. But there's one other guy that, we kind of forgot about because he got offered a qualifying offer and then declined it, is Nick Pivetta. He's now a free agent. He's a 31-year-old. He used to play for Boston, but he's always just been he has a career ERA of 4.78, but this was one of his better years, honestly. Yeah, the last few years he has a 4.04 in 2023 and then a 4.14 in 2024. So he's mid, and I don't know. I don't really see their argument here where he's gonna be a bust contract, because what am I offering that guy? I'm offering maybe 3 years. No, 40 mil? It's not a lot.
It wouldn't be a whole lot for somebody like a Nick Pivetta. I think he's fine. He's really just a fine pitcher. Talking about, Verlander and Scherzer, though, I personally, I respect everything that they've done in this league. And, obviously they've been phenomenal pitchers and both going to the Hall of Fame. I'm not offering them a contract if I'm a team. I'm not. I'm just not, because giving somebody like that, the projecting that they'll get $10 to $15 million, or at least for Verlander, anyways. For 1 year, that's $10 to $15 million on somebody that I just don't think is going to be healthy. Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Verlander was, even when he was healthy and back, he was
terrible, right? And let's face it, he's going to be 42 years old. I just don't see him being healthy.
No.
My body, I'm 26 and my body's already starting to fucking ache and hurt.
Right.
For him to be able to withstand a whole season at 42 years old, throwing the way that he throws, it's not happening. And I would say that, there's similar arguments to be made for Max Scherzer, who pitched 43.1 innings last year and 45 innings the season prior. Right. Now, he pitched quality innings in that period of time.
Or 45 for the Rangers when he got traded.
My mistake.
He actually pitched 153, but still, I mean,
in 2023, you're right. You're right. That is my bad. I read that wrong. But this past year, 43.1 innings right there, and they were, relatively quality at 3.95 ERA. I'm just not willing to give that much money to somebody like that, because I do think that the risk of them getting injured is so high at this point. Again, you guys have been phenomenal. You're both going to the Hall of Fame. I wouldn't put $15 million in your bank account.
Yeah, I'd maybe if I was a fringe hopeful team and I had a rotation spot and it's January. Sure.
If this is the only option that we have, if this is literally the only, with everyone else is, but I'm paying Nick Pivetta before I pay you guys.
Right.
I'm paying Walker Buehler before I pay. Yeah, that's the thing. At the very least, I think he's going to be healthier than you are, and that's all it comes down to. It's just we've seen the injuries start to pile up at this point, and you're old, and that's okay. You guys, you can hang it up, and it'll be fine. Everyone's still gonna love you.
They just got that competitive
nature.
It's
too much.
They can't hang up the cleats.
Head to the golf course, guys. Head to the golf.
Seriously.
I saw Tom Brady and Bryson DeChambeau.
I started watching that.
Ripping it up on the golf course together, right? Listen, Tom Brady, most competitive guy that has maybe ever lived, and that guy could never hang him up. Now he's happily enjoying the golf course, still involved in the game of football, calling games. He's getting it out, guys. Yeah. He's getting it out.
Yeah, I mean, dude, he literally said, I've been watching the beginning of that video, he said, golf is a harder game than football. So he's found his new competition.
That's the thing. Exactly, right? Listen, I'll tell you right now, okay, it is difficult, you know, so
so funny. Sorry, totally off topic, but he was like, at least in football, if I make a mistake, I can get bailed out by like a great catch from my receiver.
Yes.
The pin doesn't move when I hit a bad ball.
No. There's no moving. The only bailout that you could ever get is a lucky bounce off like some tree or some shit.
Yep.
But let's face it, more times than not, you get the unlucky bounce and it flies wayward.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's a whole other thing. But anyways, folks, that is our episode of Bad for Baseball. Hopefully some more moves coming soon. I imagine the Dodgers are not going to be done. And those Juan Soto sweepstakes are only going to keep heating up. So if you haven't already done so, hit the like, smash the subscribe button. Let us know your thoughts about everything that we talked about in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.
Cheers.